So Ruben Amorim is now the manager of Manchester United, and today we are going to look at Ruben Amorim's tactics and how we can implement his tactics in FM24. And without wasting too much time, let's go to the tactical board and I'll show you the ideas behind Ruben Amorim's philosophy, and later we're going to look at how we can implement those ideas in FM24. So on paper, Ruben Amorim looks to line up in a 3-4-3. Now this lineup that I have here of Manchester United is based off what I saw from the training video. Of course, this is not the original. This is not going to be the original lineup for the game, but this was what Ruben Amorim was using during the training video that was published by Manchester United. And I'm going off of the training video, and I will also be using the squad. I'm also be using the lineup from the training video also in game, because this was what he used in demonstration, and I would like to just use that as well instead of adding my own ideas. So basically, Ruben Amorim on paper looks to line up in a 3-4-3. Now this is how they look to line up on paper. Now when defending, Ruben Amorim's team, especially based off of the idea, and also most of the ideas in this tactics is based off what he was doing at Sporting, and I am just implementing them with Manchester United. So in defense, so when they're defending, Ruben Amorim likes his team to line up in a 5-4-1. So this is mainly how they look to defend, especially when they're really deep in their own half. You know, they would have like this 5-4-1, and if you look, this 5-4-1 is covering all those gaps, especially it's covering every gap it's covering every gap in their own half. As you can see, this is what they look to do in defense when defending. So you would often see them, especially when they're defending in their own half, you see them implement this 5-4-1, and this is one of Ruben Amorim's signature tactics. This is one thing his teams always do. As you can see, they're covering the half spaces, the wide areas, the central areas, everywhere. They look to cover everywhere. Now let's look at what Ruben Amorim team looks to do when they're in attack. There's a lot of variations here, but we're going to start slowly and build up. Now let's start from build up. So when Ruben Amorim team look to build up, they look to build up in quite an interesting shape. So the build up shape always looks something like this. So you would have the right center back. You have the right center back often in this position, and you have the left center back in this position, and then you have the central center back acting as a holding 6. It's playing like a 6, and then you would have Casemiro and Meno. They would also look to stay in this position here, and then you would have Mason Mount coming to the half space, Tyra Malacia just around this area in case he's needed, and you would have Ahmad also coming to this half space with Rashford staying central, and you would have Anthony in this area. Now, if you're looking at this shape and thinking, oh, this looks familiar, well, this is the classic this is the classic 2-3-5, but if you include the goalkeeper, then it becomes like a 3-3-5 shape. So this is how Ruben Amorim's teams look to build up. So this is how they look to build up. Now, after the ball has progressed, so after they've progressed the ball higher up the pitch, now they switch to the classic 3. So you would see something like this. So once the build up phase is finished, you would have something of this nature. So the 2-6 they like to stay very central, and then you would have the wing backs or wingers, whichever way you want to call them, or the wide players. You would have them like push up really high, and then you would have the 2-10s just around this area. So this is, and Rashford will be around this side. So this is the first, I would say, after build up. This is the next phase of play. Now, there's something I've noticed with Ruben Amorim's teams, is the fact that they like to keep the ball in the center. They don't look to play out wide or what you would call wing play. They like to play centrally. If you give them every opportunity, they always want to play through the center. So what you would notice is they recycle possession a lot amongst the center backs. They will recycle possession amongst the center backs. Now let's introduce some opposition. And so I can show you this clearly. Okay, so I've gone with the standard formation you often see in the Premier League is the 4-2-3-1. So this is the standard formation we often see in the Premier League. And what makes Ruben Amorim's tactics interesting here is it did it because now, okay, this is it. So you have this player, right, which is the opposition's winger. So if they decide to, let's say they decide to go for man pressing, right? If they decide to go for man pressing, Ruben Amorim, like we said, likes his team to play through the center area. So they would look for this pass, and of course this guy is going to be, Manchester United is going to have the numeric superiority against this 10 because of this 2-6. So they can just play the ball to one of the 6, which in this case is Kobe Menu, and you can see that man-for-man pressing won't really work anyways, because Manchester United, using this shape, Manchester United will have the numeric superiority, which would mean that man-for-man pressing would just not work, and the players can just pick up the ball and move into again central areas, and they can look to attack. So let's say a team is stupid enough to press like that, then all they have to do now is just progress the ball. And now we are in another phase of play, and as you can see here, you have a situation whereby in the wide areas you have the wingers or the wide. It's tough. It is like we can either say the wingers, because On the right hand side, he plays with a winger, and on the left hand side, he plays with a wing back. So it's quite interesting. So you have this wing back here, 1v1 here, and you have the winger here in Anthony also 1v1. And then you would have Rashford, who is like pinning the center backs. So Rashford will look to pin the center backs. And now what does that leave us with? Now we have these two defensive midfielders from the opposition. And as we talked about, Ruben Amorim's 10, they like to stay very narrow, basically. So especially the central area. Now what you would technically see here is, in order to create an overload here, you would have one of the 6 push up like this. So I think at Sporting it was like I can't say his name right, but at Sporting one of the 6 would push up into this kind of position, and this would give you sort of a 3-1-6, so you could think of this as a 3-1-6. So they would push up into this position, and again, as we discussed, this creates numeric superiority. It gives Manchester United the advantage. So if one of these players just pushes up to press, then in the central area, another thing that Ruben Amorim team look to do is they look to play one-touch football, especially in the central area. So they look to play the ball quick, one-touch, so that they can get past their position and into the final third. So you would have something of this nature. So Firmino can make the pass to Casemiro, and of course, if the center back or let's say he decides to come outside, then you can see the pass go to Mason Mount, who of course can drive inside. He has the option to either position goalkeeper. Now he has the option to either shoot or he can play cutbacks, which is one thing Ruben Amorim's teams are very good at doing. So they're good at playing cutback. So he can either have the option to shoot or he can play cutback to Rashford, who can score. So on paper you can see how, on paper, of course I'm making this like really easy just so you can understand. So you can have a situation whereby Mount makes the cutback to Rashford, who looks to score. Now, so this is one variation of how they look to attack. Now let's go back again to our build-up phase. Now let's go back again to our build-up phase. So now, when the ball is in this position, like we talked about, the ball is at the back, they stay very central. Now let's assume that the opposition decides, well, we're not going to press you, and instead we're just going to cut the passing lane into the central areas because we know you want to play into the central areas. And they decide like, no, we're not going to press you, we're just going to block the passing lane into the central areas. Now what you end up seeing is this: when the passing lane to the central players is blocked, you would see the defenders, the wide defenders, they will push wider, and when the ball comes to this wide defender, now this is quite interesting, which is something I found extremely refreshing, is the fact that in the modern day game, right, you would have this winger drop, right? You would have him drop here, and you would expect that the pass would come here. No, that's not how Ruben Amorim looks to play. Again, we talk about central. They like to play centrally. So what you would see, let's make this like a 4-4-2. Let's say most modern teams defending a 4-4-2. So let's put this in a 4-4-2. Now what you would see is Ahmad will drop to this position to get the ball. So Ahmad would drop to this position to get the ball, and Anthony would be really wide, Malacia would be really wide, and they would drop to form like a box midfield. So this is something you probably have seen everywhere, which is the box midfield. So they would drop to form like this box midfield. So the ball comes out wide here. Ahmad gets the ball. Let's say this player defends this here. So let's say they defend in this 4-2-4 structure, right? 4-2-4 structure, and like we said, the ball never goes wide. Is you would see this pass centrally here, and with this ball coming centrally, what you notice is they have a numeric advantage, which is like box midfield here. You have four players who've been taken out of the game, and then you have, let's go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You now have 7 players who are now involved in the build-up phase. And with the opposition pressing with 6 players, again, Manchester United have found a way to create the numeric superiority. They've found a way to create the overload. And once the ball comes into this position, Ahmad now has the option to, of course, drive with the ball, which is something you would see a lot with Ruben Amorim's 10. Like when they have space, they look to drive into space with the ball. And at Sporting, Ruben Amorim had Gyökeres. So one thing he would do, he would make this sort of, from this position, he would make like a diagonal run, which one of the 10s can find him with the ball, making this diagonal run here. He plays the true pass, and then of course he looks to score. So this is just another variation. So like we said, there's so many ways Ruben Amorim teams look to play, especially from build up. It's quite refreshing. It's quite interesting how they look to. They almost have a solution for every problem. Of course, I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm not saying his teams are always perfect, but this is just some of the attacking plays they make that makes them really exciting to watch. And lastly, now I need to talk about this because it is quite interesting. Now, one thing Ruben Amorim does is, normally on the right hand side, since you're playing with a wing, you would think you would play with a wing back, but Ruben Amorim looks to play with a winger. He plays with a winger who is of the opposite foot. So on the right here, you have Anthony, who's a left footer. While on the left, you have Tyra Malacia, who's playing, of course, traditional wing back with the left footer. So let's say, go again, attacking play. You can have a situation here. The ball comes to Ahmad, right? Let's say Ahmad gets closed down. Of course, by one of the defenders. Of course, now you have you have a 1v1 situation here, which no team wants to have. What you would see is then the ball can go wide. Of course, the only time Ruben Amorim's teams play the ball wide is during build-up phase, when they need to go wide. Maybe they're being pressed with a lot of numbers, then they can play the ball wide, but then it's still going to make its way centrally. And also when they are higher up the pitch, and in those situations where they're higher up the pitch, then they like to use the wing backs and the winger. So what you would have here is, let's say the ball comes to Ahmad, this defender drops to close down Ahmad. Ahmad would make the pass to Anthony. Now, because Anthony is a left footer, he would always position his body in a way to make, we have Rashford now running, making the run as we talked about. He would always position himself in a way to make the pass into Rashford's spot. So you will make, this was in a game where Sporting played against Manchester City. So one of the goals they scored was almost similar to the situation whereby the ball came out wide to the winger and he positioned himself in a way to make the pass inward, and you had Gyökeres who was making the run. And in this case, this could be Anthony making that pass inside and having Rashford making the run again to score. So this is just another way they look to attack. Okay, and how is this left wing back being used? Well, he's used in the traditional way. Of course, we're just talking about a lot of attacking variation. Now, let's assume that, we've again bypassed. Let's assume again we've bypassed the press, and let's say the ball is on this side, and as we talked about, Mount will look to drop to pick up the ball, and of course they do 1-2 touches, like they just do 1 touches in this place. So let's say Mount gives Maino the ball, and Maino finds Malacia. What you would see here is, let's assume that the opposition fullback decides to close Tyra Malacia, because Tyra Malacia doesn't have the same option to, because of his foot, right? Because he's a left footer. It's not like he doesn't have that ability to make this pass. So normally what traditional wing backs would do is they look to take on their man, dribble, and then cutbacks. I'm not saying that Ruben Amorim teams don't look to do that. They do, but most often in this situation, Mount would make the run into the channel. He will look to run into the channel or the half space. He will look to make the run into this half space. Tyra Malacia will make the pass. For Mount, run into this half space, and you would have Rashford also making the run here. And again, like with this course, call back, and he scores. So you can see the two different variation in how they look to attack down the wing. I'm not saying they don't do this also on the right hand side. They have cases whereby Anthony gets the ball, Ahmad makes the run, with Ahmad making the run and Rashford making the run, of course, cutback. So there's that variation. So in attack, what you would see mostly is Anthony either making a straight pass to Rashford or making a pass into the half space, with Ahmad, 1 of the 10, making the run and looking to play the cutback or score, or Tyra Malacia, going on the overlap, to make the cross directly, or from deep, he's just going to look to pass into the half space and have Mount make the cutback for Rashford to score. So this is basically an overview of how Ruben Amorim's team look to play, and I think this is how they would look to play this is how he would look to play with Manchester United. So as we discussed, well, as you can see, there's a lot of information there for the players to take in, and there's so many things they look to do, from switching from a typical 3-4-3 to like a 3-1-6 to like a 2-3-5 to like a 3-3-5. So there's so many variations. There's so many variations that Ruben Amorim's teams look to use when they play, keeping the ball centrally, not giving away the ball, playing in congested spaces, one-touch passes, so many things they look to do. And now we're going to look at how we can implement these ideas, at least some of these ideas, in FM24 and use them in our save. So here we have a Manchester United team, and as I've mentioned before, I'm going off of the squad or the lineup that was used in the training video. This is probably not the actual lineup that Ruben Amorim will use against Ipswich Town or going forward. A lot of things are going to change or might change, but this is the lineup I'm going to use because that's what he used in the training video. So let me talk you through the formation. So it's a standard 3-4-3 formation where we have a striker, 2 10s, we have 2 6, we have wing back here, and for this wing back role we're using Anthony, who's you can say is a winger or something. He's going to play like a winger technically, and we have him on the right hand side, and then we have Luke Shaw here. So we have a wing back, center defender on cover, and we have this, and then we have goalkeeper. Now let's go through the mentality. Now the mentality I've gone with is a positive mentality because every time Sporting was on the ball, they looked like they were going to score. So that's why I've gone with like a positive mentality. We want to create as much chances as possible. Now in possession, like we talked about, Ruben Amorim likes his team to play centrally, and as a result of that, we have gone with an attacking width of narrow, which just basically says, hey, I want you to play through the center areas. And for added measures, we said walk the ball into the box. This just ensures that the players are patient and they don't just start shooting from outside the box. So, and now we have in transition, I've kept it really simple. In transition, I've just said distribute to the center backs. I've really kept it simple. If you want to go, if you want to push this tactics overboard, or you want to, make it more extreme, you can start adding counter press, counter, and all that stuff. I just try to avoid adding those things because one thing Ruben Amorim talked about was he doesn't like to overload players with too much information, as that just confuses them. So, and that's why I've said distribute to center backs. Now, out of possession, we have a high press because Sporting always look to engage the opposition, higher up the pitch. And once this is done, we want our back line to step up. And as you can see, we want them to push up. So that's why I said much higher defensive line. So we want to compress the pitch. And when we have the ball, we want to play in the opposition's half. And as you can see here, we have for defensive line, we say step up. And for trigger press, we have slightly more often, which is the default. And we have prevent short goalkeeper distribution. And then we have for cross engagement, we look to stop the crosses. Now let's look at the player roles. So in the striking position, we have an advance forward, an attack, and he has the instructions to pass shorter and close down less. And now the 10, we have like the attacking midfielder on support duty, and he also has the instruction to pass shorter. And remember, we talked about them making those runs into the half space so that the wing back can find him with the ball and he can make the cutbacks. And as a result of that, we've said move into channels, because we want him to like try to operate in this half space. And close down less also, we've instructed him to close down less, and the same instruction for the other 10. And then for the left wing back, we have him as playing as a wing back on support duty, pass shorter. The instruction we given to him is pass shorter and close down less. On the right side, the same thing, pass shorter and close down less. And now for the 2-6, I'm using the Segundo Volante, and they have the instruction to pass shorter and close down less. The reason why I'm using the Segundo Volante is the fact that when the team is higher up the pitch, if you remember, like I showed you in the tactical board, is we want one of the players to become the single pivot, one of the 6 to become the single pivot, and then the other 6 pushes up to create a numeric overload against the defensive midfield of the opposition. So that's why I'm using a Segundo Volante. As you can see, both of them have the same instruction, pass it short and close down less. Now for the wide center back, I have them on defend, pass it short, close down less. The same for the one on the right, pass it short, close down less. And here, just for added control and safety, I've gone with a central defender. You can play a ball playing defender here if you want to, but for me, I feel like central defender on cover is like good, because it gives you control. And giving him the instruction to pass it shorter and close down more. So he's the only one who gets to close down more. The reason I'm using close down more for him is the fact that in the event that a ball is played over and he passes this defender, he can quickly recover and get the ball. And I think this is similar to what Sporting do, that there's a lot of responsibility for the central defender, especially the one playing centrally, because he's looking to sweep up balls, he's looking to provide cover to the wide center backs. And for the goalkeeper option, Ruben Amorim's goalkeepers don't look to do anything fancy, at least from what I've seen. So I decided to go with just a simple goalkeeper on defend and just pass it shorter. And so this is the overall tactics, and this is how we will be implementing this in FM24. Now we're going to see this tactics in action and see how the tactics perform. So okay, so I'm putting so this is a relatively new save. I'm gonna put this, so I like to go with TV, this comprehensive highlight, and then let's just increase the speed. Okay, so immediately you can see we are playing on the front foot, and this is one thing about Ruben Amorim's teams, they look to play on the front foot. So we're immediately looking to score and make life a living hell for the opponent. And I'm gonna show you guys things as we play. And here, as you can see, we have Kobe Menu, who's now acting as a single pivot, and we have Mason Mount, and we have Casemiro, who's pushed up there, and then we have Ahmad. So like we talked about, the second volunteer, they would look to, push up into this area. And now we have Tyra Malacia out wide here. And look, he makes the cut back, but he finds nobody. And then Anthony tries to do the same. And as you can see, we're actually playing on the front foot. And this is how Ruben Amorim's teams look to play. So we keep pushing. This would be a first goal. Oops, that was close. You can see the 3-1-6 shape I tell you about. So again, you can see Mount, Ahmad, and Casemiro just creating the overloads here, and Malacia and Anthony providing the width. And so this is how we look to play. See the intent to play through the central areas. We've lost the ball. Recover quick. Good job. See? We're good, quick in recovering. Here you can see we have the 5-4-1 defending situation. That's how, Ruben Amorim's teams look to defend it. 5-4-1. Good job, see? And here's the build-up shape, the build-up phase I tell you about. As you can see, it becomes like a 2-3-5. So this is how they look to build up. And we talk about playing in the central areas. And you see Anthony coming inside to make that pass. Rashford is straight offside there. And that's... how have we not scored that? That is interesting. As you can see, we just somehow, it's taken a long time for us to get our first goal, which we finally did. We finally got our first goal, and it's the second half of the game, and we've completely changed the squad, and now we have a different squad. And we just got our first goal. Here, as you can see, Martinez makes the pass and Højlund scores. Again, I want to show you something here. So if we go back, you can see here, so keeper takes the ball. And then you can see here, we talked about this 4 here, creating the numeric superiority. And you can see you have 4 players here: Eriksen, Ugarte, Bruno Fernandes, and Garnacho, all looking to create that numeric superiority over in that position. And now we have the ball back. And again, as you can see, if you decide to press now, what you're noticing is that we completely have the numeric superiority here, and Martinez is playing the ball centrally, and now you have Fernandes and Garnacho, and they're just going to look to exploit that central area. And as you can see, you can't see it on the screen now, but you can, if you look closely, you would see we have 4 here. So they have 3 people here in midfield, and we have 4 having the numeric superiority. And you can see Bruno Fernandes making himself available for the pass. Again, like we talked about, keeping the ball centrally. So, and that's what we're doing now. Again, now Ugarte. So many things. There's so many things. This tactics it's filled with so much information, because in this situation here, Martinez could have decided to make the pass out wide, like you would see, but he decides, no, we want to play centrally. And of course he had the option to pass here, and again, Bruno, he has so many options, but he's like, no, we want to play centrally. So he finds Lindelof, right? He finds Lindelof. Now, we talked about the center backs having the options, like the 10s making themselves options for the center back. So Lindelof can make the pass straight to Garnacho, who can turn and, of course, look to go on the counter, or and then he decides to make the pass to Eriksen. So we have the numeric, advantage. And here you can see, again, in this situation, we have the 3-1-6. Now it's Ugarte pushing up to join the 10 and also creating that numeric overload like we talk about. And again, now we just in total control of the game. Again, you can see that again. Now Eriksen is the one who's pushed up. How has he not scored that? The more you use this tactics, the more you, of course, training is very important. The more you implement good training philosophy, you would get even better results with this tactics. Now you can see how we recover the ball. We recovered the ball so well in those areas. And now, again, guess what? We talked about this. I want you guys to be able to see everything. I want you guys to be able to see everything as it unfolds. Oh, that was not my plan. So let's zoom out and maybe keep it like this. So I want you guys to be able to see everything as it unfolds. And then again, you can see now Christian Eriksen is pushed up into this position. I just want to show you something. As you can see here, the opposition have two players. They have two players in this area, and we have the numeric superiority with Christian Eriksen pushing into this area. And now we have Manuel Ugarte as the single pivot, which means we can play through these people. And this is the beauty of this tactics. Good job. And there you go, square. Oh, and we have a penalty. So as you can see, that was the play sequence. That was just amazing, because everywhere you look, we're creating numeric superiority, we're creating overloads. There's dynamic positioning from a 3-4-3 to like a 3-1-6 to like a 5-4-1. There's so many ways the team looks to play. Again, you can see that that's a quick pass, and we're just controlling possession for the most of it. And again, as you can see, we are controlling the game. This is one thing you get with this tactics. And now we're in. Gets closed down. This is one thing you get with this tactics, is back to front really quick, complete dominance, complete control, because you get to create a lot of numeric superiority, numeric overloads. And it's down to for you to get better, because I've had people who talked about, oh, I've tried the tactics, it doesn't work. Well, for you to get this tactics to even be better, you have to training is very important. So you have to implement a good training structure so that your players can get familiar with the tactics, and you get to get those identity, those familiarity, and it becomes second nature, and then they don't have to think about it. And then you just, this is just amazing tactics. And with Ruben Amorim's team, is like the goalkeeper doesn't do anything fancy. They just, keep the ball out of the net. That's what the goalkeeper looks to do. And now we've won the ball back, and now we have full control again. It's just beautiful to just watch. I mean, I sometimes just, look at that. It's just beautiful to see how we can switch from systems to system, from having the box midfield to having the 3-1-6, having the overload and just complete control. And we have given away possession again. But then again, we've recovered. Well, we've considered. We've considered. This does happen. Good job. See, good recovery from Ugarte there. Players need to learn how to keep the ball. Is he onside? Well, that's a good goal. Is he onside though? Yes, he's onside. Let's just go back and look at the sequence again in this case, and you can see this is actually coming from, I think we just recovered the ball. So you have a situation here where Manuel Ugarte recovers the ball, Dalo passes the ball back to Delete, and let me just highlight the players so you can see it clearly. And then the opposition is actually trying to press us with they're trying to play us with a 4-2-3-1. They're trying to press us with a 4-2-3-1. So you can see, but the pressing isn't even working. They're finding it difficult to press us, because in this situation, we just move from back to front quickly, and you have Højlund also looking to play on the shoulder of the defense. Ruben Amorim's teams look to play in the opposition half. They look to play in the opposition's half as much as they can. And again, you see, we're just controlling this game. It looks. People can say, "Oh, it's just because it's Manchester United." No, this is just how. Well, Lindelof. This is just how good the tactics is. As long as the players don't give away the ball, as long as they're disciplined in possession, you would score a lot of goals. You would control and dominate games, and you would have a lot of possession. Over here we have around 64 possession, and it is just it's a tactics that it's just refreshing, and I can't wait to see Manchester United. I can't wait to see how Ruben Amorim actually implements this in Manchester United. And this is how we're implementing it in FM. As you can see, we just have control. We have control of the game. Again, why are you taking a shot from there? And that's full time. So as you can see, that's the formation. That's how you implement it. There's so many ideas. We talked about in build-up, whereby they have that 2-3-5 shape, or if you want to include the goalkeeper, then you would have the 3-3-5 shape. And then once they progress the ball, then they have the 3-2-5 shape with 2 pivots, like the 2-6 and the 3 center backs, and then the wing backs look to push really high, and then you have the 10s playing in the half spaces. And once they progress the ball again into like the middle third, then you technically would see one of the 6 push high up. He pushes up and joins the 10s, and then you have that numeric superiority, like 3v2, and you just the tactics is refreshing. As if you can tell from my face, I've really enjoyed using this tactics. In fact, I've been using it for one of my save with Blackburn in the championship, and it's going well. We're scoring like a lot of goals. We're playing well, and I can't wait to see what Manchester United achieve with this. I can't wait to see what Ruben Amorim achieves with this new Manchester United setup. So, but if you're thinking of how you can implement this tactics in your FM safe, that's how you do it. So guys, I've spoken too much today. I'm just excited. Honestly, I'm a Manchester United fan, so I am really excited about Ruben Amorim coming to Manchester United, and I can't wait to see what we achieve with. I can't wait. I just can't wait. So guys, without any further ado, don't forget to like, don't forget to share, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for your support towards this channel. Until next time, bye bye.